Hello chess friends! In this lesson we will talk about extra pawn patterns. We are going to learn how to win in endgames in which you are a pawn up. Although we talk in this series of lessons about minor pieces endgames, we will start with the position in which we have only pawns. If we remove A pawns off the board, then the B pawn is called an outside passed pawn. It is an outside pawn because there is a distance between the mass of balanced pawns on the king side, and it is a passed pawn, of course, because there is a lack of the opponent's pawns to stop him in his way to the promotion. If now we return these A pawns to the board, then white at the moment doesn't have any passed pawn, only a potential passed pawn because of this pawn advantage he has on the queen side. Any pawn advantage is called pawn majority. On the other side, any pawn disadvantage, like black has in this position, it is called pawn minority. So in this position, white has 2-1 queenside pawn majority. Winning this position is very easy and straightforward. There are 3 steps to win this endgame. First step is to centralize the kings. The second step is to create a passed pawn. And the third step is to use that passed pawn as a decoy for black king and go with white king to the other side of the board and win all the other pawns. Let's see how will that be in this position. After king f1, simply king e7, king e2, king d6, b4, king d5 and king d3, and now the first step is completed. The kings are now in a position and there is a battle to avoid yielding to the other king. The only way to do that is by making pawn moves. After f5, f4, g6, g3, a6, a4, it is obvious that black is losing this battle and he must go back. After king c6, king d4, king d6 and b5, ab5, ab5, and the second step is completed. White has created passed pawn. Black will now obviously play king c7 because he must stop this pawn from further advancing and protect from promotion. But that pawn will be a decoy for black king, and white will sacrifice that pawn, of course, but he will go to the other side, winning all other black pawns, and this is of course very easy and trivial win for white. If we put one knight for both sides, that is also winning position for white, but it is much more complicated than the position in which we have only pawns. The steps will be the same in this position. The first step is to put kings in the center of the board. And after king f1, king e7, king e2, king d6, king d3 and king c5, now the first step is completed and the kings are in the center of the board. Now white and black will need to activate their knights. So knight c2 and knight d5. We need to be careful and carefully observe always the last opponent's move, because the last opponent's move maybe created some threat, like in this position knight f4 to win the pawn on g2. After g3, which is obvious and forced move here, a5, b3, f5, a3, g6. This is first critical moment. When you are a pawn up in some position, the main advantage you have is that you are able to return that advantage to your opponent in order to simplify the position and enter in some trivial winning endgame. And white is doing that now by playing b4. After ab4 and ab4, white has completed the second step and created passed pawn. Black is able to win that pawn, but if that happens, that will be very bad for black because he will exchange knights and white king is again much faster than black's king. But there is a small trap in this position. If white now directly plays king g7, that will not be enough to win the game because of g5 move. And if king takes h7, f4, and now we see that both sides have a passed pawn, and the passed pawns will promote at the same time, and the game is drawn. If black plays king f6 instead of capturing on h7, again f4. And after, the idea of f4 is of course to play f3, king e2, king f2, and to promote f-pawn. That's why white is capturing, but the position is still easily drawn. This endgame is drawn because black will have enough time to reach desired f7 square, and white cannot make any progress in this position. That is why here f4 is the only good move which wins the game, and now we see how really white king is much faster and white's f-pawn easily promotes and white wins. So after completing the second step, it is bad for black to capture the pawn on b4. Probably he will play king d6. And after king d4, now white will try to improve his pieces. And we came to the second critical position. Maybe most of you will say now that b5 is the best move for white. But actually, b5 is bad move due to psychological reasons. Although with precise play, white can still win the game with that move. In fact, after b5, black is anyway in lost position, and he is just waiting for some moment to complicate position and to get some non-balanced position. So he will definitely sacrifice knight for the pawn and play king d5. Now his king is very close to white pawns, and this is winning position for white, and let it be your homework to find out how white wins this position. But maybe due to psychological pressure, white will not be able to find all the best moves and the game may end up as a draw. That is why it is not good to push b5. It's much better to continue improving the position of the pieces. Knight e3, and after knight c4 check, black must decide on which side to go. If he goes to e6 and abandons queen side, now white will take control of the queen side. And after knight f6 and h6, black will resign the game because now he will lose one of the pawns. He is not able to hold everything. h6 is under attack, and if that pawn goes to h5, simply knight e7, winning the pawn on g6. If after knight c4 check, black plays king c6, then white king goes to the king side by playing king e5. King b5, another great move, knight e3. If now king captures the pawn on b4, then again great move knight d5, exchanging the knight, simplifying the position, and again white king is much faster and white easily wins this game again. Nothing can stop f-pawn to promote. That is why capturing the pawn on b4 is never good, and black will probably play knight a6. But now we defend the pawn, and again if black captures knight b4, we exchange the knights. So king c4, knight f6 attacking h6 pawn, and after h6, knight just goes back to d5, again defending b4 pawn. After knight b8, let's say knight e7 attacking g6 pawn, the complete king side for black will be lost, and black resign, white wins this game. In this position again we have a one pawn advantage for white, but now we have bishops on the board, same colored bishops. The plans are again the same. First step is to centralize the kings. So king d3, king d7, king c4, king c6. The first step is completed. White now activates the bishop c3, attacking the pawn on g7. Black must play g6 to stop it, and white continues with his second step of the plan to create a passed pawn. Bishop b6. We always need carefully to observe the last opponent's move. We cannot blindly follow our plan, which is straightforward here, a4 and b5, to create a passed pawn. So always carefully observe the last opponent's move. Now f3 is forced move to defend the pawn. There is nothing better for black than now just to mark time while white creates a passed pawn. Here b5 is still a good move, but white can play one prophylactic move, bishop d4, offering this bishop straight. If straight happens, that will be trivial, easy winning for white because it will be only pawns. So black wants to keep the bishop and he plays bishop c7. After b5, ab5, ab5, the second step is completed and the passed pawn is created now. Now black king must decide, will he go to d6, stay in the center of the board, or go to the queen side with king b7. If king d6, bishop c5, b6, and then after king d5, just easy plan bishop d4 and bishop e5. After that b7, b8 cannot be stopped, and white easily wins the game. Better move for black is king b7. And then after king d5, if now black goes bishop f4, then white will win like this. Bishop e5, and after bishop e3, king d6, with unstoppable plan of reaching king side and winning the pawns. If now black plays bishop g5 to guard e7, we will go to the king side towards light squares, d7 and e8. So better move for black in this position is tricky move bishop b8. Now the same plan for white will not work, because if white plays bishop e5, black has intelligent defense bishop a7, and after king d6, bishop goes back to b8 checking the king, and king e7 is impossible because bishop on e5 is hanging. To apply this plan, we need to have the pawn on f4 first. But to put the pawn on f4, we need to protect it with g3. But to play g3 first, we need to play bishop to f2, and that is the best move. After, let's say, bishop c7, g3, black will try with h5 to play h4 and break the pawn structure to try to complicate something, but we can simply stop that by playing h4 move. And now, after bishop b8, our plan with f4, bishop d4 and bishop e5 will for sure work, but we can play even better playing b6, creating Zugzwang for black. And now, after king c8, king c6, and after bishop e5, simply f4, bishop d4 with the idea to put bishop on e5 next move. Now exchanging of bishops is inevitable and white easily wins this game. If you want to see some specific content in my chess lessons, please place the comment below my video on YouTube, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel.